All right, we might as well get started. So today's graphics, I've already done a little bit of a graphics thing, but we didn't go through the softwares. So I'm going to go through the two softwares that we have on campus. And these are kind of lead-ins to courses you will take or you are currently taking. So if you're currently taking one of these softwares, I'm sorry about today, because you probably have all this information already. But the normal flow of courses has you taking AutoCAD or SolidWorks in the winter, right? That's the normal sequence of courses. So if you're taking one of those now, you're just doing it out of sequence, that's fine. But you already have this knowledge, so sorry about that. Most of you are not taking it, so this will be good. If you're taking GE101 in the winter, that's AutoCAD, okay? If you're taking ENGR 248 in the winter, that's SolidWorks. Or maybe you're taking it in the spring, whenever, right? Those are the two softwares we have, and those are very common softwares in engineering, very common, like tools in our toolbox, so to speak. There are many, many other softwares out there. There are softwares that companies own, like Boeing will have its own three-dimensional software. Freightliner has their own three-dimensional software. So we can't teach those, right? We don't have the resources to have every software here. So we make sure we have a good solid two-dimensional software, which is AutoCAD, and a good solid three-dimensional software, which is SolidWorks. Now, can AutoCAD do 3D drawing? Absolutely, it can do it. And can SolidWorks do 2D drawing? Absolutely. And when you do those two classes, you will do both. But one is definitely better than the other. Like AutoCAD is much more robust at just 2D drawing. Drawings that look like they're on a piece of paper, right? They're not three-dimensional. AutoCAD is very good at that. SolidWorks is much better at making three-dimensional parts. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just kind of give you a tour of both softwares. I'll do AutoCAD last, because that's the software you're going to work with today. You're going to actually muck around in it and try and make something. Okay, so when we get to the AutoCAD part, you're going to want to take just some basic notes so you can kind of get started in these computers around the outside of the classroom. Okay, but know that both softwares are right here in this lab and in the main computer lab. Those softwares are in there in 3 stations in the main computer lab. So if you want to dink around with SolidWorks, you can do that in the main computer lab or this lab whenever it's open, right? You don't have to go out and buy it. You don't have to get a student license. You can just run it right here on campus, okay? And you will get student licenses when you take the courses. So when you take AutoCAD, you'll get a student license. You'll download it onto a laptop or desktop, whatever you have available. And you'll be able to run it for, do you know how long you got it for? Is it a year? Yeah, I think it's a year now. It changes. Every version seems to change. It was 3 years for a while, and now I think it's back to 1 year for students. And that's free. Okay. Same with SolidWorks. You get it for a year. I think it's a year for free. So it's really awesome. The calendar before I get started, right? So the final challenge is next Monday. So today, my lecture is going to be fairly short, and then what you have to do in AutoCAD is pretty short. And that's to give you time to work on your project, because this is really the last Monday that it's available. A lab is available for you to work on. There's open lab tomorrow and Wednesday. And those are just times that I teach in here at 10:30, but those classes are doing projects. So you can come in and do whatever you want to do. No problem. Yeah, no, before the final challenge. Correct. Yeah. That's it. Yep. This is, yeah, it's crash time. Yeah. So hopefully your schedule had you like being all done by now and you're just testing. Probably not, but maybe. All right. Let's do a little SolidWorks tour. So I'm going to close it just to show you where it's at. Like if you want to play with SolidWorks, I'll close AutoCAD too. Make sure that I have the right share going because I am recording this. Okay, this will work. Should work. We'll see. All right, so SolidWorks is in its own little folder. When you go to the stations out here, it's right here, right? And AutoCAD is in its own little folder. When you open them, there's a lot of choices. So just be careful and go slow and choose the right one. Here you can see there's a number of composers. There's an electrical version, but we want just regular SolidWorks 2021. So again, you're not going to run this one today. I mean, you can for fun if you feel like you have the time, but this is the right choice to just run the software. This is a modeler, three-dimensional modeler. Its logic is to create the three-dimensional object. Once it's created, then you can pull the two-dimensional views off of it. The front view, the side view, the top view. And it does a fairly good job at doing that. A lot of cleanup is typically needed if you have a complex part. So it's like you make the 3D model, that's really cool, and it's fun to do that and design with it. But when you go to make the two-dimensional drawings, which is what industry typically needs, is the two-dimensional drawings, you have a lot more work to do. It doesn't just like give you what you want. You got to clean it up. You got to dimension it correctly. It throws the dimensions on there all wonky like. So that's a little bit annoying. But as far as designing the part, it's beautiful. So what I did there was I just clicked on part, meaning I want to make a part. There's three things you can do. You can make a part, you can make an assembly, which is bringing parts together, or you can make a drawing, which is actually the two-dimensional drawing. Okay, typically we don't do the drawing in here. If you're just going to make a drawing, go to AutoCAD to do that, right? We make the part, and then we go and make the drawing from the part. Okay, so the concept with SolidWorks and many modelers is you sketch a two-dimensional shape, and then you're going to push it into a three-dimensional thing. And that can be called extrude, that can be called push, like in SketchUp, for example, it's called push, right? In SolidWorks, it's called extrude. We're going to extrude it. So different lingo, same process. You're going to make a two-dimensional sketch, and you're going to push it into a shape. So if you're modeling something simple or complex, you want to think about like, what shape do I want to start with? Because that's going to be the solid. And then I'm just going to hack on it. I'm going to slice it up. I'm going to drill holes in it, whatever I want to do to make the part, right? So it's almost like you're taking a piece of big chunk of clay and you're giving yourself a basic shape, and then you're going to chop it into the thing that you want. Does that kind of make sense? So I'm just going to go with like a cup, just so we have a visual of what I'm going to model. Because you kind of got to know what you're going to model before you start, right? And how you want to start. So if I'm going to model something like this, I could start with just a cylindrical shape, a round shape, and I could actually give it some taper. I wouldn't have to. I could cut that taper in later. So it kind of depends on like what geometry you want, and if you have all the dimensions you want, right? If it's an original part, just a part in my head, then I'm just going to start going for it. And I'll shape it as I go. If it's something like this, I would get out my calipers and I'd measure it all right, and I'd make it exactly right. I'm going to guess at the dimensions just for time. But I'll show you just a basic cylinder. Like if it was just a basic round shape with no taper, you're just going to draw a circle and you're going to push it right into its three-dimensional shape. So I'll start with circle. That's here. Notice I'm in the sketch tab. You have all these tabs across here. A lot of them you'll never use. Sketch you'll use all the time, and features you'll use all the time. So there's kind of these two modes. There's sketch, and then there's these features that you can do to a solid. So I'm going to sketch. First thing it wants to know, and SolidWorks is really good about this. It's pretty intuitive. It asks you questions graphically. Like right now it's saying, hey, you're going to sketch, but where are you going to sketch? Because if we're thinking in three dimensions, we can't just sketch anywhere. It's going to be on a surface or a plane. And these are the common planes that you're given, right? So I'm just going to pick a plane. You know, if I want my cup to sit upright in space, then I better sketch on the top plane. If I want my cup to sit like this in space, then I would sketch on my right plane. Not that we can't move it around. That's hard on SolidWorks to move it around. In other words, it's going to keep track of your thing in 3-dimensional space. And if you go rotating it around all weird, like it's got to recalculate everything and reposition every piece of geometry, right? And a lot of things that can go wrong if you do that. So it's best to kind of get your stuff in position. So I'm going to put it in the top plane. When I did that, it rotated the top plane and it put it perpendicular to me. Again, it's trying to help. All right, that's good. And I see the crosshairs, which just means I'm now kind of on a 2-dimensional space. I don't see the 3-dimensional crosshairs. Like I could really muck it up and rotate it. And you can see the crosshairs kind of like, uh-oh, they're moving around, right? I'm still looking at one flat surface. It's just going like this. I'm like, oh, that's probably not what I want. So I'm going to undo that. Go through it again, sketch, top plane, and I'll just draw a circle. So you can see it's given me a dimension, radius 2.72. But when we draw 2-dimensionally, we are just sketching. In other words, I'm getting at just the approximate size. That's how SolidWorks works. You may not like it, I may not like it, but that's the way it is, right? So I'm drawing the base. I'm going to say that's like, I don't know, 2 inches. Okay. So I am going to get I'm going to get this thing close, but I'm not going to worry about how close it is. I'm just going to nail it close to 2. Okay. Because you sketch and then you size things, sketch and then size things. So now I'm going to use my smart dimension right here. And I'm going to choose my circle and I'm going to pull it away and place it and say, okay, it did radius of 2, giving me 4 inches. I'm like, oh, that's not right, right? I really wanted a diameter of 2. So I tell it 2 by typing in 2. It was already highlighted. Again, SolidWorks is trying to help, already highlighted. Now I have a very flat circle, right? A couple things you look for. You look for that it's fully defined. It's here. Fully defined. The sketch turned black. It was blue. I didn't notice that. I should have said that. But once it turns black, then SolidWorks is good with the shape. Like that's good. Right? If I had more going on and it was more complicated, it might be undefined. And I would have to keep adding dimensions to define it. A circle, 1 dimension just defines a circle. If it was a square, I'd probably have to have at least 2 dimensions, or a rectangle, right? You got to keep adding dimensions until it's fully defined. All right, now I'm going to extrude it. So I jump to features and I hit extrude. Again, it's trying to help me. It's like, oh, you want to extrude, I'm guessing at 0.1 right here. Like, nope, it's more than 0.1, right? I'm gonna say it's 4 inches. I don't know, 4 inches. And it gives you a preview. So I'm just using the roller mouse and holding the roller mouse down like a button. So I can zoom with it. And I can hold it down like a button and I can see what it's doing. I'm like, okay, I like that. But it doesn't really look like my cup, right? Actually, it looks too long, but I'm okay with that. But there's no taper to it. Yeah. So I got my basic starting shape. Now I could think about like trying to whittle it down, or I can remember that I can add taper to an extrude. So the really cool thing about SolidWorks is you can go back in time and do things to the object. So here is what I just did. If I look at it, I made a sketch and then I made an extrusion, right? So at any time, I can go back in time and make a change. So I could go back to the sketch and edit that sketch, and I could change the 2 to 2.2 for some reason, right? And then hit check. And then it does that for me, right? And I can run a exit the sketch and it'll do a rebuild. So now it's that new size, right? So I went back in time, changed it to dimension. I can also go back to the extrude If I quit moving my mouse so quick, it's really having a hard time. I want that quick. There we go. And I can go to the extrusion and I can add a taper. So if you hold your mouse over buttons, it'll tell you what it is. It's called draft, right? So I'm gonna add a draft, 1 degree. There's 2 degrees. There's 3 degrees. It's good, right? But it's going the wrong way. So I have a button that says draft outward. That looks better. Starting to look like my cup, right? So this is just a little demo to kind of show you what this thing's like. The last thing I would do to make my cup, except for the little ridge, which I might want to add later, is to hollow it out because it's not going to hold water well. So once you get your solid going, there's a lot of things you can do to it. All of this, it's in the feature thing. All of this I can do to this object. If the button is available, you can do it to your part. So sometimes these are grayed out. Like is that one grayed out? No, it's not. If they're grayed out, you just don't have a object that it can work with, right? But I can shell it. And shell means I'm going to empty it out. But I do have to give it a wall thickness. 0.1's probably about right. It might even be thinner than that. I'll leave it at 0.1. And then it wants to know, like, what surface, where's the opening going to be? And it's going to be in the top of my cup. So again, it does it for me, right? My cup's looking pretty good. Cool. Gives it a shadow. You can add materials to it. You can do all kinds of cool stuff. So I could make it paper. This is paper. And then I could get mass properties of the object, like the weight. I could get the geometric center, the center of gravity, and get a lot of stuff. So it really thinks this thing's a real solid thing. Very handy for designers and engineers. Yeah, it's good. All right, last thing with SolidWorks, because it's the coolest thing, is it actually has a robust tutorial system if you want to learn it yourself. Like I teach SolidWorks and I always think that's a crime because I think you can learn it on your own. If you have any interest at all, you can learn this software. The tutorials are really good. So the tutorials are here up in this help area. It's this little question mark. Scroll down, tutorials. I'll show you how they work. This is the getting started tutorials. Where's the all tutorials? I'll look at that. So here they all are, right? All these tutorials. Lesson 1 parts. Basically opens a window next to SolidWorks like that, window over there, and this. It is a little like, you got to get used to it because it shows you what you're going to make and then you start to make it. So a lot of times it'll show you what you're going to do and then you do it. So that rhythm is a little weird, but it's really pretty good. So next topic. So here it says, click new to start. And if you don't know where these buttons are and you click on them, they will flash over on the other side, which is super handy. When you get deeper into the software, it's going to ask you to do a revolution. And you're like, I don't know where that button is. And you click on it and it's like, hey, it's over here. So it's pretty slick, huh? I don't, sometimes I use them for like lab. So I might say work the, there's animation in here. So work the animation tutorial and then we'll go through it in class type of thing. So most of the time I try to just lecture first and then I might send them to a tutorial. Some students like it, some students hate it because it makes you go step by step, right? Or you're not going to get it right type of thing. Yeah, I'd rather actually have you modeling just on your own and trying things. I think you learn better, but yeah. Anyway, AutoCAD's horrible. Like I would say don't even deal with the AutoCAD tutorials. They're terrible. The SolidWorks tutorials are really good. So if you want to learn that software, I'd say go for it. So one more time, that was at this little question mark. They have moved this around, so, and then tutorials. And then all tutorials, you get to see them all. All right. That's all for SolidWorks. Just kind of a sneak preview. If you're scheduled for 248, then this is what you will do for a full term. And at the end of the term, you'll make some really cool stuff because you'll go through assemblies where you're bringing parts together and you can work with motion and animation, all interferences, all kinds of stuff. So it's very handy. All right. Don't say. That was a nice cup though. Now we're going to do AutoCAD and you're going to actually do an AutoCAD exercise. So it's in its little folder. 2 clicks brings it up. It's a 2-dimensional system, which means we're just going to draw the 2-dimensional drawing, right? Front, top, side view, something like that. And what you're going to do is a plan view of the egg challenge in schematic form. So schematic form means basic shapes, rectangles, triangles, lines, like keep it simple, right? So you're going to show the 20-foot ravine. You're going to show the table, that's a rectangle. And then you're going to show your system in the starting position kind of thing. And that's it. So it's really going to be super simple. We're going to keep it simple. So if you've never used AutoCAD, who's never used AutoCAD before? All right, you need to take some notes and maybe sit next to somebody that, or use me because I'll be here. I'm going to click new and it's going to open up a new drawing. So that's the AutoCAD working screen. This is where we're going to draw. We're going to draw here, right? And then those are our tool palettes up there. I will do my best to use the palettes right now, but I am a typer. So AutoCAD, you can use quick keys, quick commands. So like the line command, that's this thing right here. You can also just type in L and enter for line. So your faster operators, not that I'm a fast operator, but your faster operators are going to use the quick keys. They're going to go L enter, and that loaded the line command because I can see down here, it says line, meaning that's the command that got chosen. And it says specify the first point. So the command line is trying to communicate with you, and it only works if you read it. If you don't read it, it doesn't work, right? So this is where AutoCAD is trying to communicate with you. Okay, so read it, read that thing. If you're like, I don't even understand what it wants to know, then just start over on the command. Or whatever you're trying to do, just start over. And the cancel key is escape. And when I hit escape, it says cancel, 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 right? And I always do it twice because there are some commands that you will get deep into. They have options. So you'll get like 2 options deep. And if you hit cancel, you've only canceled 1 option. So when I cancel, I go cancel, I like hit it like 4 times, like just to make sure like done with that, trying again, right? So to draw a line, you can click on that or you can type in L. I just clicked on it. So it says specify the first point, take my pick button, right? Normal pick button stuff. Put it anywhere because it's a software. We can move stuff. We can use any space we want. And that gave me the first point. So a lot of times I see students not moving their mouse. They'll click the first point and they'll say nothing happened. Well, it looks like nothing happened, but if you move your mouse, you'll see that something happened. The first point was picked, right? And now it's trying to pick the second point. And it should say down there, it should say next point, because you can keep going, right? You don't just get 1 and 2, you can get as many as you want. So it's saying specify the next point. So there's a few things it's trying to help you with. There's a green dotted line that shows up looks like every 15 degrees right now. Yeah, 15 degrees, see the dotted line? It's trying to give you a perfect angle if you want the exact angle. So you can go straight up by getting that green line going, or you can go straight down by getting that green line going. Everyone see what I'm talking about? That marching ants or whatever you want to call it. If I want to go directly horizontal, the thing with AutoCAD and any software is you want to be exact. Like you don't want to be guessing like, oh, I think that looks good. Like that doesn't look good. That's not horizontal, it's not vertical, and it's not a specific angle, right? That would be like sketching. If you hit it by accident or you get something you don't want, you can undo it. There's a little undo arrow here. Or of course you can type, what do you think? U, enter, yeah. So you can just go U, enter, and that'll undo it, and it'll give you another chance. Okay? I'm going to teach you the aim and shoot method. That's just where we get the green line going, we aim, and then we can shoot our line at whatever distance we want, because you see what's highlighted is that dimensional distance. It says 17, right? But I can type in whatever I want. So I have it on the green line. I let go of the mouse so I don't accidentally do that, which I do a lot, right? And then I type in 5. AutoCAD's thinking inches. Unless we tell it something different, it's thinking inches. So if you wanted 20 feet or 5 feet, you didn't get it, you got 5 inches, okay? So you got to do the math to get to feet, unless we change the units. Okay, so if you don't want to deal with changing the units, just do the math to get to inches and then put in the right inches, right? If I wanted 5 feet, I would undo and I would put in 60, 5 times 12, right? 60. Now I have 5 feet, 60 inches. And you'll notice it went like, I don't know, into the other room or something. It went way out there. So the roller mouse is your zoom, and it'll zoom back and kind of give you a new scale to draw with. So we do that a lot. Maybe I want to go up now 30 inches. So I'm just aiming and shooting, right? Going back 60 inches, aim and shoot 30 inches. So that is 5 feet by 30 inches, right? 60 by 30 rectangle. That's the simplest way to draw. Just aim and shoot. You're going to get straight lines. If you want a circle, you can work with the circle. It's hard to position stuff. Like I can put a circle in there, but like, where'd I put that? I don't know. I just like plopped it, right? So a lot of times, if we're going to place things that we really want in a certain location, we put a construction line in. So maybe I go line, and if I move around slowly, I can see there's certain points that show up. There's a midpoint, there's an end point, right? I can grab things very precisely. So maybe I'll grab this midpoint, come across 20 inches, and now I have a construction line that I can place my circle by. I can go circle, grab that endpoint, and then I could put in a radius. If I knew my radius, I'll put 3 in and it'll do it, right? So construction lines, super valuable. We use them all the time. And then we can just erase this out of here. What do you think the quick command is for erase? Yeah, so just try that stuff. E, enter, right? You always got to enter it. If you just type in E, AutoCAD doesn't know, like, are you done typing or are you not done typing, right? So it'll just sit there and go, oh, they're not done yet until you hit enter. All right. Then what's it ask? Select objects, because you're erasing, right? You got erasing going there. It's thinking, oh, you must want to erase something. So select your objects. You can do that with the little pick box. That works. Or you can, if your pick box is not on anything, I'll just do it off to the side, and you move, you get a window. If you put anything inside the blue window, it'll get chosen. So nothing inside there. But if I did that, you can see what gets chosen, that one line, right? Now there's another window. If you go down low to upper left, that's the crossing window. Anything that crosses gets chosen. So there's kind of 3 ways to select objects. I'll hit enter. I'll hit erase again. I can use my pick box, but I've always had too much coffee to do that. I can just put a window around things and it'll grab it. So that's the fastest way. And then of course, when I want the command to do what it's supposed to do, I have to hit enter. Got to tell it I'm done and it'll do the erase. Okay. That's like the basics of it. That'll give you enough to kind of like muck your way through. Like if I'm going to draw a line and then I want a line 20 feet over, right? Because I want to draw the ravine, then I want to draw the table, that's a rectangle. You just go for it. Like this is one side of my ravine. I'm going to draw a line from the midpoint and I'm going to go over 20 feet. 20 times 12 is, anyone got higher level math in their head right now? What's 20 times 12? It's not a quiz question. 2 times 12 is, wow. Did you guys have a good Thanksgiving? I really am looking for some input. What's 2 times 12? Yeah, thanks. And then you added the 0, right? Genius, you're a genius. You rest of you are geniuses too. So that like, whoa, that made the scale, right? Now I got 20 feet. Yeah, so there's my ravine. I might want to make this line a little longer. So I get rid of it, put some longer lines in. So this is what I'm looking for. This is like the schematic view of the egg challenge from the top looking down, right? I have my 20-foot ravine. If I get a line over here, right? And I get a line over here. Oops, that was yucky. Try that again. That's better. Kind of better. Get rid of my extra line because I don't like extra lines. Right? There's my challenge. You can draw some simple shapes in for your system, draw the table in, done. Okay? So I'm not asking for a lot, just for you to get in and muck around a little bit in AutoCAD. I do need it saved and then uploaded. Yeah, go ahead. Yep, top view, top, looking down. And you can just use basic shapes for your system and then get the table in there, and that's all I need. Okay. So you're going to save it. You are going to save it 2 different ways because that's very common. So the red A up in the corner is how we save. These are also save buttons. Feel free to use those. You're going to want to use the one with the little pencil so you get to name it, because we really don't want to call it drawing 1. That's not very descriptive. That's kind of lame, right? So I'm kind of old school. I go to the A and go save as. You're going to want to plop it onto the desktop. And you're going to want your last name. And then you're going to want the name of the lab. You can call it whatever you want. AutoCAD lab would be fine. But your last name first, because then I know it's yours. ACAD lab, something like that. I always put the date on mine, always tag all my files with the date. And that's so I can go back and find kind of the most current version of whatever the heck I'm working on, because I save all the old versions in case I muck one up or it gets contaminated. I have my old work, but I usually want the most current ones. So yeah, there's the name now reflected at the top, right? You can see it changed the name. So that's a DWG file. This is an AutoCAD drawing file. DWG is the extension. So on the desktop, it would look like that, right? Has the little AutoCAD symbol to it, has all that cool stuff. It can only be opened with the AutoCAD software. No one else can even look at it, right? So the other thing we do often is we save it as a PDF so we can send it to somebody and say, hey, this is the drawing you're looking for. Plus, I really don't want to give people my drawing because they'll muck it up or they'll change it or something will happen to it, right? So a lot of times we're sharing PDFs, not the actual drawing. So that's pretty simple too. Save as. I used to be able to just pull it down here and see it. Boom. Guess we can't use save as. So we probably have to export. Yeah, export PDF right there. What that's going to do, I mean, there's other ways we do this. We actually do it with layout, but I'm not going there. These layouts. When you export as PDF, it's going to use the view that you're in. So if you do this and then do export PDF, I'm going to get a line. That's it, right? So it's going to use the view on the software. So you want to get it big so I can see it. and then go export PDF. And it'll already have the name in there and it'll tag PDF to it. And I'll hit, let's go on desktop, yep, save. It did it. And I'm just going to verify that. Yep, there it is. Okay, so just that easy. I want the DWG and the PDF of your fancy schematic drawing. And I think actually I put on there, I wanted you to name things too. Yeah, I did. So like when you get the table on, I had you put some text on screen. So I'll show you that. Annotate right here. So we've been working in the home area, which has drawing capabilities. It has some other stuff too, but has all your drawing tools here. If you go to annotate, this is all the text, right? And here is the text we want to use. Multi-line's not the easiest. So if you see a little triangle there, anything that has a little triangle, that has a little triangle, that means there's more menu there, right? So all these have triangles, the more will pull down. So single line text is a lot easier than multi-line text. They both would work and you'd probably figure it out. So if I click single line text, it wants to know start point of text. Also tells you here, start point of text, like where do you want to put it? So I'll just set it there. And then it says specify the height. And you have to think about that because if this is 240 inches, right? Maybe this table is 20 inches, right? So if you use like an 1/8 inch text, you won't be able to see it. It'll be so small. So just kind of guesstimate and then try again. I'll use 6 inch text. That might be big. Then it wants to know what angle you want your text on. Like, I just want my text horizontal. That's defaulted. This means default. In other words, this means what if I hit enter, I'm going to get it. So I'm just going to hit enter. Then I can type. Like that. Okay, so it's pretty simple to place a piece of text. You can keep going. Like I can click over here and say 20-foot ravine, right? I can keep placing text if I want to, or I can at any point come back and place text. Right? Yeah. Nope, no dimensions. That would be a whole nother lecture. And not that much fun. No dimensions. Just stuff like this, just label things like our system, you know, the ravine, the table, that kind of thing. You might put your name on it. That'd be cool. Yep. I want everyone to get their hands on AutoCAD. Yep. So it's kind of a good thing you're here. Once you're done with single line text, I don't know, start. I'm just trying to come up with stuff. You hit enter twice. So enter places it all. All right. I think if you're typing, whoops. And you hit enter, that gives you another line. So you can do that, right? If you go enter, then it places it. Okay. All right. Good luck. These systems all have AutoCAD on them. Feel free to knock this out in a short amount of time. Upload it. There is an upload location, and then you can work on your project. I am here to help if you need any help. You don't have to draw the whole thing, just like I did. Just the ravine, the table, and then a couple lines for your project. That's it. Yeah. Don't count. We were gonna draw the whole thing and no. That's crazy. Yeah. That'll take a long time.